Alright, I got a couple emails here I'm going to share while I'm here before I get going home to await the arrival of the calendar date of 2021. Not that that's going to change much, I don't imagine, but listen to this one. Steve, hello again, and thank you so much for the live stream you did for me and others like me. I watched intently and even took notes. I can't begin to tell you how much this has helped me. I wanted you to know that I took your advice to the letter. I went back out, alone, during the day. I felt nothing and saw nothing, including deer, lol. 2 days later, I went out at 4 a.m. Oh, right on, good for you, man. I prayed before I entered the woods, and then softly under my breath repeated as I walked in, I know you're here, you know I'm here, I just want to be left alone. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. I can't tell if it was my overactive imagination at this point or if what I felt was real, but I did not feel alone. It was not like when I went out during the day. It felt like something was watching me, if you will, but I did not get hit again with what happened before. No intense panic, no mind fog, no confusion, but a definite threat level was still present at a lesser degree. The hair on the back of my neck would occasionally stand up, so I kept repeating that phrase over and over under my breath. About 30 minutes before daylight, that sensation lifted. I didn't feel anything anymore. I agree with you, Scott and Dave, concerning our sixth sense. I think society encourages and distracts us into ignoring it, but as an avid outdoorsman my whole life, I can tell you it's very real. How many times you've been hunting and something says, look left, and when you do, here comes that deer you've been waiting for all morning. At any rate, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me. I literally feel like you and Scott have given me a portion of my life back. I was honestly wondering if I was going crazy. Thank you for all you have done, not just for me, but for so many others. I pray for you, Scott and Dave, on a daily basis, and I encourage you to keep fighting the good fight, my friend. I'm just one of many. Grateful beyond measure, Jason Brooks. Well, right on, Jason. Thank you very much for that email back. And I'm posting it here publicly for everybody to hear your words so that this email may be useful for all of you other people out there who are still quite upset and having a negative time due to that experience that you had that you didn't ask for. So if you are a fellow outdoors person or just a fellow human being who wants to get back out and enjoy the outdoors like that are around me right now, you can still do it. All right? You just have to avoid all the douchebags out there and who want something from this topic, and find those real, true, good, hard-working, honest people for support and encouragement and honest knowledge that'll help you get over the negative reaction you've had to that bizarre experience that you've had in the woods, which obviously tens of thousands of people have shared the same. So, yeah. So anyway, so thanks a lot, Jason, for that email. I'm glad it's working out for you. I'm super, super stoked you are back in the woods. And I'm sure you're going to go again, and I'm sure you're going to be successful. And but just know that it probably won't be the only experience you have, all right? It's just the way it is. Now that you are aware, and you are obviously in tune with your senses, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, you are never, ever, ever going to be able to go out in the woods again without thinking about these things. It's not possible after you've had that experience, right? You know what I'm talking about. So that being said, don't let it get to you or upset you too much when you do have another experience, all right? Because now your senses are going to be alerted to these beings or signs of them or odd sounds that you normally wouldn't even be listening for intentionally or paying attention to, right? You are now going to, you are now not ever going to be able to avoid subconsciously or directly listening for odd sounds that you normally wouldn't even have thought of, or seeing things that you normally wouldn't have even been looking for. And now you've got that life sentence of taking all that on additionally. But it's no big deal. It's easy to manage. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just an honest part of our existence, man. It's an honest piece of our existence and an honest fact of what's going on in the real world today and always has been going on. All right? But anyway, I think I'm going to swing the camera over. The sun's hitting those peaks over there, and the view's frickin' crazy. And see what else I got. That thing's focused on me or not. I don't see what else I have here. Well, stupid glasses. I hate glasses. I can see fine. I just can't read close. It drives me nuts. I hate these things. All right, what do we got? I was watching a YouTube channel where a guy was telling stories from David Paulides' Missing 411 books, and one was called Saran Wrap. I heard the story and almost hyperventilated. It was exactly what I saw, and I've tried to email my experience to you 3 times now. Here it is again. I'm sorry for any spelling and punctuation errors. This all started the summer 2015. I was living alone with my 2 dogs in a very rural part of Northern California. I lived about 30 miles from the California-Nevada border, in the part of Plumas County that was, for the most part, rugged wilderness. My home sat at an elevation of just about 5,000 feet in a very small town that was once the location of a huge lumber mill, but now all that remains are the old mill ponds. My town has a population of around 150 people. There were no traffic lights, gas stations, or grocery stores for 15 miles either direction, and if you blinked, going down the highway, 70, you'd miss it. One day, the younger female dog I owned disappeared. She was gone for a handful of days, maybe a week, and I assumed she'd become a mountain lion food. During the time she was missing, I started experiencing a lot of sleep paralysis. It seemed to be happening every time I laid my head down, and I'd feel myself starting to fall asleep, and then instantly I was paralyzed with the sensation of something extremely heavy on top of me. It felt like something was attacking me on a demonic level. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the only way I can describe the feeling that I was having. After the 3rd day, I started to calm down when the attack would happen instead of panicking. After the 3rd day, I started to calm down when the attack would happen instead of panicking. That's when I started to teach myself how to come out of the paralysis by focusing my energy on a small body part, like a finger or a toe, using everything I could muster to barely move the 1 digit, and from there I could move the rest of my hand or foot, eventually an ankle or a wrist. By the time I moved my whole arm or leg, I would come out of the paralysis, and I'd learned how to completely stop from happening. As soon as I stopped the sleeping paralysis episodes from happening, my dog returned home, which was weird because I expected her to never come back, and I was excited to see her. Yet after 1 day of being home and no sleep paralysis, something new started happening. It was early in the morning, probably between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. The dogs woke me up. They were whining, crying, and jumping on my bed. They didn't want to eat or go outside to go to the bathroom. They just wanted to climb under the blankets and shake at my feet in bed. They just wanted to climb under the blankets and shake at my feet in bed. The stranger couldn't figure out why they were so upset, and they never acted like this. As I was trying to figure out what was wrong with my dogs in the middle of the night, wham! Something slammed into the side of my trailer so hard it knocked the pictures off the walls. It shook the whole house and rattled the windows. Then, just as quickly as it started, it was over. The dogs calmed down, I went back to sleep, and by the time I woke up the next morning, I hardly remembered that it had happened. That was until 2 a.m. the next morning when the dogs did it all over again. Whining, barking, jumping up and down on the bed, and the older male dog that I had even urinated on itself. And that's when it happened again. Bam! Something slammed into the side of the house so hard again, it knocked the pictures off the wall. Hell, it knocked the clock down, and that jogged my memory of the night before. This went on for 3 weeks. 5 nights a week. It was almost clockwork until I got all the external lights, motion detector floodlights, and every light I had on the outside of my house all pointed towards the front porch and driveway. It lit up the whole front yard, and I had it all set so I can flick the switches on and quickly throw the front door open. I was determined to find out what was slamming on my house late at night. I also had a Ruger Vaquero .45 long Colt revolver. With a full cylinder of wad cutters, I felt I could take down a bear. So that night I was ready. The dogs went off and they began acting crazy. I waited, and when I felt the slam into the house, I had the lights turned on and the front door open before the pictures hit the floor. I threw the front door open and stepped out onto the porch to look for something I was thinking was an animal. That's when I saw the silhouette of a head and shoulders peek up from behind a big pine tree in my front yard. It was trying to stick to the shadows, but I could make out the dark silhouette of a man. It ducked under one of the branches of the pine tree as it peeked its head out from around the tree to look at me standing on my porch 25 feet away, and I yelled out, "I can see you." It quickly pulled its head back underneath the branch and tucked itself behind the tree, and I yelled again, "Hey, I can see you." That's when it took off across my front yard, through the floodlight, and jumped into the ditch and ran along the side of the road. The only thing was that this thing was cloaked, like the Predator movie. I could see a blurry outline of this thing moving, 2 arms, 2 legs, shoulders, a head, but in the middle of it, the center was completely see-through. This thing was just like the movie Predator, and I asked God in my head to please not let me think I was going insane, if he can show me this creature one more time, just so I knew I was seeing what I was seeing, and that it was real, and the thing jumped up out of the ditch and ran across the road. I took off running, jumped off the porch and down the driveway, chasing after it, yelling the whole time, "I can see you, I can see you." I had never drawn down on the silhouette of a human being before, so the idea of pointing the revolver at it didn't occur to me for 1 second. I'd almost forgot that I had the revolver in my hand completely. But I do know one thing. Once this thing knew I could see it, it wanted nothing to do with me. I got the feeling then, and I feel still to this day, like it was much more afraid of me than I was of it. That was the last time the sound happened, and the dogs never went crazy, and the sleep paralysis stopped. Nothing. None of it ever happened again. I moved out of that trailer 6 months after that, and I've had nothing but ridicule, belittling, demeaning jokes made at my expense about my sanity and sobriety, but I know what I saw. I know what happened with the sleep paralysis, and I know that my dog disappearing, that all have something to do with one other. I just can't figure out what it is. Anyway, that's my story. I swear it happened the same way I've written it down and told you today. Oh yeah, one more thing. The next morning when I looked at my front yard, the tree branch that this thing had ducked under its head, that branch was a good 2 feet above my head, and I'm 6'3" tall and 280 pounds. I just happened to be standing on my porch that night, 3 feet off the ground, and being a 6-foot tall guy, I just figured that it was relatively the same size. Until the next morning when I went out and stood next to the tree that I had been hiding behind, then it dawned on me just how big this thing was, and I would say it would have had to have been around 8 feet tall, and it moved quietly and as swift as the wind. I was running after as fast as I could that night, and it had crossed the street, jumped the fence into horse pasture, and was gone before I could get to the end of my driveway. I don't mind if you use my name. Feel free to ask any questions about it. Please, I've been telling anyone who will listen since it happened, and I'm surprised how few people listen or care. I've lost all credibility with my family, peers, and I've become the butt of every joke you can imagine. SASQUATCH. I hope I pronounced your last name right, Zach. And that's one hell of a story, man. One hell of an experience. You know, the reality is that the fact is, you are not the only person to have shared an experience like that. You're not the only one. And in fact, I believe there is a woman, a bow hunting woman who was in a tree stand, and she actually videotaped basically what you saw in the trees. I believe that's on YouTube somewhere. I don't have the link, you guys. I'm sure a lot of you probably know what I'm talking about, where to find it. Maybe you could post that in the comment section below this video or something. But yeah, it's a shitty deal that people can't handle. They just can't handle the realities, the facts of the crazy shit that's going on in our reality out here in this real world. This is very, very real out here. This is as real as it gets. And I don't know why, human beings, the majority of the population have created some kind of divide between them and what they call nature. And you got to leave nature alone, or whether they go out in nature when we are a part of nature, right? And subsequently, I guess, those inner city communities, the majority of people have just absolutely lost touch with basically reality, right? The real world, the real fact, what's going on. There's so much going on. There's so many crazy things happening that scares the majority of us, and makes every single one of us question your sanity the second you see it. You didn't even ask for it. You could even dream this shit up on your own. Furthermore, why would you, right? But I don't know. I don't have the answers, the exact answers to figure out what the hell that thing was, what it was doing, and how it did it. You know, where it came from, or how long has it been how long has that being and others been living amongst us, right? As far as the slapping on the house goes, I've lived that one. And I'll tell you what, that's a scary one. I didn't have any floodlights or any lights at all on the outside of that cabin I was in when it happened to me, so I was just sitting, I just stayed planted inside, sat there with my rifle. What else are you gonna do, right? And I don't know. I know people, friends of mine who've had the same experience, having their houses slapped, banged violently by something very large. And I don't know what it is they do, why they do that. I haven't a clue. Like I think I mentioned before, some of the reactions, the inconsistencies with how they govern themselves around us, it just is very odd to me. It doesn't make sense. You know, something can be so stealthy and so intimidating and so large and powerful, but they turn to terrified little not little animals, but they turn to terror. They're terror-stricken when we get our eyes on them. So I wonder if that's something to be said about us and our possible skills that we may have had previously, and we've had them rubbed away from our consciousness, right? Maybe we do have other skills that we're not familiar with, which I'm pretty confident that may hold to be true, right? Because if a man or woman's eyesight, gaze can inflict that kind of terror into something that should be so terrifying to us, it just doesn't make sense. And if that does make them terrified, then what the hell are they doing following us around, paralleling us in the timber, screaming at us? And why were they sneaking up on us? Why would you sneak up on a group of human beings around a campfire? Why would you sneak up on their house knowing they're probably scared, terrified human beings are probably in there with a gun or whatever, and they do that? It just doesn't make sense, right? It's very contradicting. It's very confusing. But what isn't these days, right? But if any of you out there have witnessed the same thing as this man has shared with us today, maybe you should think about emailing that experience into us and describing it to us so that people who are interested in coming up with answers can possibly pull some clues from your experience and add them to a bundle of knowledge and come up with some answers, right? Because that's the only way we're going to get knowledge. That's the only way we're going to get smarter. That's the only way we're going to be informed about the honest truth of what's going on this planet, is with each other. I'd never dictate to anybody what to do ever. I just like to offer up suggestion. And what I would strongly suggest to all of you is to refuse to get your information from mainstream media or social media, okay? That's very, very important. You are going to get your knowledge from each other, from your family members, your coworkers, from your community. That's where the real, true, honest knowledge is, and that's the only place you should look for that knowledge. And of course, your own first-hand experience, right? You know, for me, I don't know why. I have a clue why. But all of my life, I remember conversations and words spoke to the T. All throughout my life I have. It's almost like a curse. You know, obviously sometimes some things I forget. But the shitty, frustrating thing for me is when you have a memory like that. When I listen to people when they speak to me, I listen. And those words that people speak to me tattoo in my brain. Unfortunately, because then months, weeks, even years later, I'll be having a conversation with that same person, and they will tell me something absolutely contradicting, which absolutely proved to me that they were lying to me in the past. Whether it be a small lie, a mediocre lie, or a big lie, it doesn't matter. The fact is, my brain registers that they bullshitted me, and I can't stop myself but from that point on, I'll still talk to them, be cordial with them, but everything they tell me from that point on, it basically goes in one ear and out the other, because they were a liar or a bullshitter to me and looked me in the eye and lied to me previous. And I didn't look for it. I looked for that. It's just the shitty thing is I remember. And that exposes bullshit later on. So when you look at mainstream biased media and you watch them blatantly lie and attempt to, and usually successfully, manipulate all of us. That registers with me, and then I'm done. It's like, not only the American media, but as well the Canadian. I'm watching the mainstream, the main Canadian media outlets, and they all mimicked every single theme of news delivery of the main American news outlets. That just tells me flat out they're all connected. I've actually had a couple personal goes with Global News, one of our main ones. I've had a couple personal goes with them. They attacked me and I attacked them back, and they attacked me a while back. And I don't trust any of them. They're all liars. All mainstream media is bullshit and is geared up to manipulate us. Period. I don't even know why. How can people still watch any media program after it blatantly has lied to the public or misled? I don't understand how people can still flick the channel and give them the support and watch them. I don't understand it at all. But anyway, all I'm saying is I would strongly suggest you stop supporting the biased or lying media outlets around the world, because they are causing nothing but divide, nothing but grief, hatred, and anger. And they're keeping facts, real true facts, away from us. And this topic is one solid example of numerous, right? So anyway, that was a little bit of a rant. But if any of you who are still listening, and you've had the same experience as this man, seen what he's seen, email it into me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com or tellmystory@howtohunt.com, and we'll get to it. Just like this previous person just said this, he's emailed it 3 times, and this is the first time I've seen it. So it may take a little while, but I'll get to it. And your experience and your words will be shared, and you'll know that you're not alone. But anyway, I'll see if there's anything else I can share before I go.